the Serengeti. There is nowhere else on Earth where you can see such an incredible array of animal life. When the wildebeest migration is in residence in the short grass plains of the Serengeti, one can look out from many of the hilltops to a view so immense that it defies description. No point of reference, no way of judging scale or distance. The land is awash in a sea of animals, hundreds of thousands of wildebeest spread evenly across the land. The Serengeti in Tanzania is the most famous game reserve in the world. Declared a World Heritage Site, it covers 5,700 square miles, an area equivalent to the state of Connecticut. 1/3 of the reserve is made up of the flat, grassy plains which gave the park its name, Serengeti, Maasai for the place where the land runs on forever. Trees will not grow on these plains because their roots cannot penetrate the hard pan beneath the soil, which formed millions of years ago from volcanic eruptions and the thick rains of ash which deposited onto these plains. Isolated granite formations called kopjes in the south of the Serengeti are a reminder of the land buried beneath. Lions searching for prey use the height of the outcrops to their advantage as convenient lookouts. Acacia woodlands and rolling hills complete the landscape of the Serengeti. The woodlands provide ample shade for animals during the heat of the day, and the trees are food sources for browsers such as giraffe and elephants. The history of the wildebeest migration is as ancient as man. Fossils uncovered in Tanzania suggest seasonal grazing more than 1 million years ago. From November to June of each year, the Serengeti is home to millions of migrating animals. The short rains begin in November, and the land draws to it the migrating herds of wildebeest, zebra, and gazelles from the Masai Mara in the north. It is a wonder of nature that so many different species are able to feed and coexist on the nutrient-rich grasslands. Plains zebras digest the long grass stems and are often the first grazers to enter the long grass areas. With the stems removed, the wildebeest are able to eat protein-rich grass blades and shoots. The Thompson gazelle is then able to access the small plants and the new growth grass shoots. While the migration appears to be continuous in a clockwise movement, the beginning can be said to occur in February, when in the space of a few weeks, wildebeest cows give birth to hundreds of thousands of calves. The newborn are on their feet within minutes and are running alongside their mothers after only 15 minutes. The calves have a conspicuous tan coloration, changing to the adult coloration in 3 or 4 months. A calf's protection lies in being constantly on the move and on the anonymity of the herd. But many die before their first year, victims of undernutrition disease and predators. The overall effect of the synchronized birth is to reduce the infant mortality, despite the efforts of lions, cheetahs, and hyenas. During the long rains of April and May, the herds are finely tuned to the distant sound of thunder, faraway darkened skies, and the smell of distant rain. Their grazing is constantly being interrupted by these stimuli, and they seem to be always on the move. Rain can be falling 50 miles away, yet they somehow manage to be there in time to enjoy the surge of green shoots that are unleashed from barren ground. As the grazing areas become exhausted in the western Serengeti, they move to the north, back to the Masai Mara. Along with the migrating herds of a few million animals, the Serengeti supports abundant resident wildlife on its plains and woodlands. Giraffe are seen in large groupings, and small elephant herds roam the woodlands. Leopards are often sighted in their favorite trees, and even lions will sometimes be found in the lower branches of trees. Hippos gather in large pools of water. A delicate balance between nature and man allows for the continuation of the migration in its current form. The migration is a necessary part of the continued health of the Serengeti and provides for the balance between healthy grasslands and woodlands, which should help the Serengeti survive for generations and generations.
Jambo, jambo bwana, habari gani? Nzuri sana, wageni wakaribishwa, Kenya yetu hakuna matata. Jambo, jambo bwana, habari gani? Nzuri sana, wageni wakaribishwa, Kenya yetu hakuna matata.
The annual wildebeest migration is truly one of the greatest wildlife spectacles in the world. Smaller than the African buffalo, bigger than a gazelle, wildebeests have been called clowns of the plains, said to be designed by committee and assembled from spare parts. In truth, they are animals well adapted to their unpredictable environments and can move rapidly in search of food and water. For a wildebeest, it seems to take no more energy to run than to walk long distances, an ability helpful to cover the more than 600 miles of their annual migration. More than 1 million wildebeest, accompanied by 200,000 zebras and 300,000 gazelles, annually migrate from the Serengeti plains of Tanzania to the Masai Mara grasslands of Kenya. The cycle begins in May, when the grass on the southern plains of the Serengeti becomes exhausted, and the herds begin to move northward through the western Serengeti. The mass migration reaches the Masai Mara by late June, with the herds remaining until September, when they begin their southward march, following the scent in the air of the rain in the Serengeti. By November, they reach these southern plains to feed on the new, nutrient-rich grass. The herds remain in the south, allowing their newborn young to build strength before heading north to once again begin the cycle. During the migration, the greatest danger occurs when the herds must cross the Mara River. There is no other way to reach the Masai Mara. Thousands of wildebeest and zebra mass at the river's edge, apprehensive to enter the river. One determined leader will be the first to make the plunge. Then, as if a dam bursting, an endless flow of wildebeest and zebra follow. Some make suicidal leaps from the steep banks, and some land on others already in the river. When the water is fast moving, wildebeest are swept downstream, and the struggle to survive against the current often leads to drowning. Mothers, separated from their calves upon reaching the other side, may swim back to find a lost calf. Hungry crocodiles are a constant threat. While most wildebeest and zebras are successful in escaping crocodile attacks, this is not always the case. Lion prides in the Masai Mara have anxiously awaited the return of the wildebeest and zebra, while cheetahs have awaited the increased population of the Thompson's gazelles. This cycle of life continues year after year for both the predator and their prey. The Masai Mara is also home to a large variety of African wildlife, which includes the elusive leopard, elephants, crocodiles, giraffe, hippos, several antelope species, hyena, jackals, and hundreds of bird species. The survival of the Serengeti Mara ecosystem and the preservation of the wildlife have been aided by the Maasai tribe. The Masai Mara National Reserve is situated on the land of the Maasai people. They live in harmony with the wildlife and do not hunt wild game for food. This benign attitude towards the wildlife could be construed as a form of active wildlife conservation. Hopefully, the Maasai way of life will continue and assure that the ecosystem can be enjoyed by future generations.